Tibbs' teams always overachieve. Like, there was a guy who hung up who said, well, he's a regular season coach. I mean, he got them to the Eastern Conference Finals. Did anyone think they would beat Boston this year? And don't give me that Tatum got hurt, because they were up in that series before Tatum got hurt. Yeah. The Bulls went the furthest they've gone since the dynasty under Tom Thibodeau. So the Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau. This is a story that I'm A, passionate about, and B, that we know a lot about, because we went through the exact same thing. And I always get this. I always get people, when I defend Tibbs, say, Silvy, weren't you the one who wanted Tibbs fired when he was here? And if you listened to the show, you knew that while critical of Tibbs, I won't speak for you, I'll speak for me, I never wanted Tibbs fired. I wanted him to get better at the things that he's stubborn about.
Just evolve.
Yes. So, like, I've always compared it to players. The players and coaches in front office always have an exit interview. And they say, okay, Jimmy, you've really improved as a player. But what you have to do better in this offseason is you got to be a better teammate and work on your post-up game, or work on your ball handling skills. And then Jimmy goes to 3 workouts a day in California, and he's working and working and working on his game. And Tibbs, like Jimmy or like any great player, had so much to offer, and the Bulls benefited. They were better because they had Tom Thibodeau. But Tom wouldn't want to get into the lab and change some of the things that hurt him. Joe Kim, if you don't believe me, listen to Joe Kim Noah on Pardon My Take recently, when he, and Wilbon mentioned it last week, Joe Kim Noah was developed into an MVP finalist and Defensive Player of the Year under Tom Thibodeau. He was not that when Jim Boylan was the coach. He was not that under Vinny Del Negro. He evolved under Tibbs because he worked on his game and he was guided by his coach and developed by the coaching staff. But Joe Kim will always tell you, Tibbs was nuts.
Yeah.
They would be going through a 2-hour walkthrough when they just wanted to be off their feet. That's Joe Kim's words from just a few weeks ago. Get us off our feet, Tibbs.
Didn't they have that? It was a story about when they went to Brazil or somewhere.
Yes. So they had a game in Brazil. They had that long flight, and he made them get off the flight and basically go through a walkthrough. They couldn't even just chill out. And the teams are better for that. Just look at the records. I'm digging this. Maybe you can help me on this, Tyler, to match them up. Look at the Bulls' record. I believe the Bulls were a 500 team. Maybe they were like 40, 41 and 41, maybe a game below or a game above 500 under Vinny. Tibbs comes there. They don't make a lot of moves. They get Carlos Boozer, Kyle Korver, Ronnie Brewer. But they had most of the same star players, frontline players, and they went from like 41 wins to 62 wins, I believe, in Tibbs' first year.
Yeah, 41 and 41 each year under Vinny.
And then what were they in Tibbs'?
62 and 20, and then the shortened season, 50 and 16 the next year.
So, this is we're comparing apples to apples. The year before Tibbs, and remember, they didn't get LeBron. They didn't get Dwayne Wade. They settled for Carlos Boozer. They got Omer Ashik, who Tibbs developed into a contributing player. Ronnie Brewer came. Kyle Korver came. There weren't any, great all-star level players that they acquired. And they go from 41 wins to 62 wins, 21-game improvement in 1 year. When he goes to Minnesota, I believe it was the first year the Timberwolves made the postseason in years. And I don't know what their record was the year before. I got to check on that, if you could check.
It says here in the 16-17 season when he took over for the T-Wolves, they finished 31 and 51. They missed the playoffs. But the following year, they were 47 and 35.
So in his second year, they improved by 17 games or 16 games?
16 games.
16 games.
And it was their first playoff appearance since 2004.
So
then in the following year, they were 19 and 21 when he was let go.
Yeah, and remember they had the whole Jimmy thing.
Yeah.
The Jimmy had to be traded, and that blew up. So then he got fired, and then the Knicks have not been to the Eastern Conference Finals since the early 2000s.
25 years.
25 years. And it's not good enough. And I always like teams with expectations, But I always say this about Tibbs. While stubborn, while sometimes not wanting to evolve, life is not better without Tom Thibodeau. The Knicks fans will learn that. And I tweeted, hey, if I'm the Bulls, what I would do is, if I'm Michael Reinsdorf, I'd call Tibbs up, I'd have him coach, pair him with a good personnel guy, and blow this all up with AK. Now, it may be over the top.
I would start with calling Bob Myers and convincing him to take over management.
And that's always been even if he's not the day-to-day guy, he's team president.
Because think about it. I mean, wouldn't you rather have Bob Myers and, I mean, let's just say Bob Myers and Billy Donovan versus AK and Tibbs? I'd go with Bob Myers and Billy Donovan. In a real, in the ideal world, you could have both. You could have Bob Myers and Tom Thibodeau potentially. But I'm saying if you were going to take an opportunity to improve something over there at the Bulls front office or the Bulls building, it would be to replace AK with Bob Myers.
Yes, and like this was my way of another way, and this is not this is a coincidence why I'm wearing the shirt.
Yeah, you didn't have this at the
I didn't wear
office.
it because of Tibbs, but I went to Waddle coined the phrase, and for weeks I wouldn't even say the term.
Was you afraid you were going to say something that was inappropriate?
I was going to add a CK on the end.
Yeah, boycott.
And so I boycotted the Bulls for the first time in my life. I've been going to games since 3,000 people went to the Chicago Stadium when I was 5 years old. This past year was the first year when I was offered first-row free tickets on the floor. I declined them. And we went to college basketball games. We went to DePaul games, Illinois games. That's how we got our basketball fixed because I don't believe there's a plan. And so this is just another way to point out that they need, if they want to ever go anywhere, they got to blow this thing up.
I think you and I were treated unfairly by some folks as well when we took the stand we did, including Tibbs, who we could talk to him about it. I think he tried to hit us with his Range Rover when we were over at the UC one day.
There was a day in that parking lot where the Jordan statue used to be. It's now enclosed in the atrium.
We were doing the show from inside.
Yeah, and we parked in that.
Yes.
And we were
walking.
And they were leaving shoot around before the game, and we were walking in, and Tibbs stared us down and nearly hit us with his Range Rover.
That's not a lie. And we had a good well, it was okay. I thought it was a civil relationship. Fred Hubner used to bust our balls. Everyone would bust our balls because we would always talk about minutes. But we always said, and no one would ever include this, minutes in context. I don't care if you play 40 minutes, if in fact you're rested and you're healthy. The greatest example I can give you is I'm sitting at a restaurant in Evanston. This had to be years ago because my daughter was still playing soccer at Northwestern. And they were finishing up the regular season, about to go into the postseason. And I think they were in Charlotte, if I can remember this correctly.
It was the last game of the year.
And Joe's knee he's dragging it up and down the court.
Yeah.
And Joe played like 40 minutes in a game.
It was an overtime game.
Yes.
They went into overtime, and he played 40-plus minutes. And then the reason they didn't have a run is because Joe's knee was so – well, there were many reasons, but one of them was Joe couldn't get up and down the court.
Yeah. And I don't believe the outcome of that game was meaningful
there may
in any
have been
way.
like a seeding thing, but it wasn't like...
Wasn't worth it.
It wasn't above getting Joe the vital rest he needed before what you hope to be a longer playoff run.
So I guess the point I'm making is we all understood, you guys play. I get that. But it was minutes in context, and nobody would ever include that comment of in context. They just bust our balls for being minute police.
Right, and I always tell you cite that story. I cite the game that I was up in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Derrick Rose was having back spasms. This was pre-knee injury Derrick, but remember, he had all these soft tissue issues, back spasms, hamstrings, calf stuff. You always used to say, wound very tight.
Yes.
And Derrick had an outstanding first quarter in Milwaukee, where he scored like 20 points in the first quarter. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the first quarter, he goes down with back spasms. The Bulls cruise basically through the whole game. They're up 23 points in the fourth quarter. Derrick, who's already been on the bench earlier in the game with back spasms, Tibbs put him back in the game. At the end of the game with a 20-plus point lead, instead of resting him, Derrick then missed the next game because of the residual effects from the back spasms. So it wasn't about not playing guys. It was when a guy suffers back spasms, don't play him. When Luol Deng has a hamstring injury, don't play him 40 in his first game back. So I've always said he's got faults. You ask players to get better, but he didn't. And again, that flared up with who he depended on in the postseason, only playing 7 guys. Kenny Smith.
He said Tibbs wouldn't play 9 guys in a baseball game.
Yes, but he is one of the best coaches in the NBA.
Yeah.
And Billy's fine. I don't get the love for Billy. I don't truly understand the hate. Billy is, in my opinion, he's fine. He doesn't win you games. He doesn't lose you games. I don't know what the Bulls' identity is. Like someone was arguing with me, now you want to get rid of Billy when they're finally playing. They improve their shot profile and this and that. Meantime, they fired their shooting coach. I
think
don't get
we both agree, though, that there are bigger issues in their front office.
Yeah, and like they don't play defense either.
Right.
And they're not interested in those players. I don't believe they're going anywhere. This team needs a major overhaul in the front office, and this is just another, to me, a way to shine the light on that Michael Reinsdorf keeping these guys employed is a catastrophe, and in a sports catastrophe. And in 2 years from now, they'll just get it too late. They'll realize it too late, and they'll always be stuck. They're not going anywhere with AK. And
I wonder what Tibbs' next destination is.
What about one of these teams who are ready to win? Like, who have the vacancy? Has Phoenix filled their vacancy?
It's
were
down to 2 guys. Yeah.
Like, would they be interested in getting him with KD? Like, to find Tibbs' teams always overachieve. Like, there was a guy who hung up who said, "Well, he's a regular season coach." I mean, he got them to the Eastern Conference Finals. Did anyone think they would beat Boston this year? And don't give me that Tatum got hurt, because they were up in that series before Tatum got hurt.
Yeah.
The Bulls went the furthest they've gone since the dynasty under Tom Thibodeau. Mike Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game in 10 years, but he keeps keeping his job.
And they can't find a quarterback.
Tom Thibodeau is always blamed. So I think you can be nuanced and say, Tibbs, brother, how many times is this going to cost you? Where the Knicks and the Timberwolves and the Bulls, you've done wonders for them, but they won't keep you because you refuse to change. And it's really a complicated puzzle when you figure it out. But
it's odd. I'm not shocked, because when it comes to Tibbs, I mean, he is a bit of a lightning rod with regard to how people feel about him. But the guy Malone that they're talking about replacing him with is kind of like Tibbs, isn't he?
Well, he wore down Denver, that's for sure. But he's a really good coach, too. He's won a championship, something that Tibbs has not been able to do.
Well, Tibbs didn't have Joker either. I mean,
like, Tibbs' best players that he's ever coached are Derrick Rose, Jalen Brunson, and Jimmy Butler, correct? He made Joakim Noah was an MVP candidate, as I mentioned, finished like 3rd in MVP voting. Derrick won the MVP, and Jalen Brunson has become a superstar under him. So I don't know if he's ever had the top players and how that would look, but like Evan Cohen, an unsportsmanlike, this was an unsportsmanlike penalty too. He texted me that he's basically Vic Fangio. He said that he's just a defensive coordinator. And I'm working, I got to put this together. Like, I bet you Tibbs has one of the better winning percentages in basketball currently. When you look at his Bulls record, when you look at his Knicks record, when you look at the T-Wolves record.
Well, I can give you his career winning percentage in regular season.
And where does that rank in active wins among coaches currently?
I can give you as a head coach, to this point in the regular season, he has a 579 winning percentage.
So where does that put him 579 with active coaches in the game now? Is there a way for you to...
I can get
we'll
there.
Do that. We'll do that on the other side, but...
But I'll give you this as well. His playoff win percentage is 466. So, I mean, most coaches probably...
I think most, yeah.
But I'll see where an all-time head coach...
Didn't Peyton Manning have a sub-500?
He may have.
You know what I mean? The playoffs are tough. but he has won series in the postseason. He just hasn't won a championship. 312-332-3776. I know it's outlandish. Would anybody be open to bringing Tibbs back? He develops players. Players get better under his watch. But the bottom line is, if the Bulls are ever going to change, and I'm wearing the shirt that says Bullcott on it today, if you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/@Waddle and Silvy, and Twitch, the ESPN 1000 Chicago feed, you can see that. Like, the bottom line is, until they blow out this management, they're not. It doesn't matter who their coach is.